Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Crusader Kings, where we do some tutorials. I'm Revenge. Last time we had a look at the traits and stuff like that, and this time I promised we would have a look at war. So we went to war with England right from the start, actually before the start. But normally you have a good look at your opponent before you go to war. For instance, you want to know how many men he can muster, and right now we have 14,000 men. We can raise about 1,000 more tops, and maybe hire some mercenaries if we need to. But we want to know how many men he can have, and that's 11k. So he's a little bit at the advantage if he, or actually he has a disadvantage in numbers, but we have to cross the strait. So when we land, we actually only get about half our morale, which is this. We only get half of that when we land over at wherever we're gonna land, and that means that if he somehow managed to get his 11k to that position fast enough, he might actually he begins the war or the battle with a morale advantage, and in the end you are beaten when your morale reaches 0. So that's a really tough thing, because you already start with a morale deficit if we would just go in blind. But at the same time, this guy also has a war with Norway, and that guy can get actually 16k. So a good strategy would be to just wait out here, scout around a little bit, see how it goes, and hope that the guys from Norway actually really beat down on England, and by the time they both have lost quite a few men, then we barge in and destroy both of them before taking the entirety of England. That is probably the best way to do it. Anyway, normally you go into wars that you can win easily. For instance, if we had a claim on this guy, maybe we do. No, we don't have. But we could actually easily beat his 2k with our men, so we could just take some land from him. Then at the same time, to go to war, I believe I already said a little bit about this. You also have to have a good reason. So, for instance, we have a claim on this guy over here, which we discussed in the previous episode. But you have a number of reasons to go to war, and one of them is a claim from your that your chancellor made, or for instance, if you lost a county, you usually still have a strong claim on it, so you can go to war for it to gain it back. But there's also other ways to get some land. For instance, the de jure ones, that vaccine is, because it belongs to a title we have. We are allowed to take it. Same time, sometimes this claim is actually from one of your vassals. So for instance, if I was the King of England rather than the Duke of Normandy, and the Duchy of Normandy was just a vassal of mine, then I would be allowed to take a vaccine from France and put it direct and take it for my own. But instead of it going to my own, him becoming my vassal, or even me owning this little county, it would actually go to the Duke of Normandy, that would be my vassal at that time. So you don't actually have control over this county, so you have to be careful that you're not feeding one of the dukes that either doesn't like you, or might get so strong that if he ever starts to dislike you, either because you do something wrong, or because he becomes too strong, or even because his child inherits or something, he might get so strong that he can easily overthrow you and become independent or king himself, which is also a possibility. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to feed them too much, but you still want to grow your country. So that's something you always have to watch out for, is who am I pressing this claim for? Because in some cases you can actually go to war with someone to put someone else on the throne. And that is handy if you have a duke, for instance, under you when you are a king. You have a duke who, for instance, also has a claim on this duchy of Brezin. or Braise, whatever. So then you can put him on the throne, so he gets both duchies, and because he's already your vassal, it actually is also added to your country. Again, this would be part of his realm then, so you have to watch out that you don't make him too strong. But on the other hand, it's also possible that it's just someone from your court that you are trying to place on the throne. And while that's all nice and dandy, usually in most cases that means that actually the area you just fought and lost a lot of men for doesn't become part of your country, because it's someone who didn't hold land in your country, so they have no reason to become part of your country. So that's bad. So if you're pressing a claim for someone else, you have to watch out that it actually becomes part of your country. In addition, you can go and do holy wars on, for instance, when you border one of these Muslims over here. Now, it's easy to do a holy war because you basically when you win, you get all the holdings yourself and you can hand them out as you see fit. So you don't have to deal too much with the Muslim rulers there. You don't have to convert them or anything, although sometimes you do when you didn't siege everything. Sometimes you get mosques and stuff. Mostly you just get all the holdings. But at the same time, when you go into a holy war, all his neighbors are allowed to join in simply because they feel that an infidel, in this case you, is trying to get countries that belong to their faith. So again, it might look like, oh, this guy is just a pushover because he only has 1k, but then suddenly you might find yourself at war with the whole region rather than just him, which makes life a lot harder. So yeah, again, you have to watch out which casus belli you use, and it's not always a good idea to just go like, oh, I can actually go to war with him, so I will. That doesn't always work that way. It is also possible, for instance, that you have either a claim on this entire duchy or just on one of his counties. So it might be that you, when you fight him, you get the whole country, or you could get only a little part of their country that you somehow have a claim on. You also, for instance, if you are a Viking, you have a subjugate casus belli where you can actually fight another Viking and put them under your rule. That's also a casus belli, and what's actually handy about that one is that you gain some what do you call it? An opinion bonus for being the one who subjugated them. They kind of are impressed by your strength, I guess. So rather than because you went to war they disliking you, which often happens, instead this time they actually like you more simply because you were strong enough to subjugate them, which is nice. I guess that in reality they wouldn't really like you that much, but at the same time it is a way to show that they are not inclined to go to war with you soon to gain back their independence. Now, that being said, I think that's pretty much all the war mechanics, the casus belli that I can talk about, that I know off the top of my head. Now, if we go to England, which we'll do now. Actually, before we start, you can see over here that we can split off special troops. Those are a special event spawned. In this case, you can also be mercenaries or whatever. This is just because so when you put men into war, you might want to do the ones that are more disposable first, or maybe you want to have a hit at your own troops earlier because they cost more money or something like that. It depends on what you want. Also, when you disband your army, you might want to only disband the ones that are part of your levy rather than just the mercenaries, or other way around. You might want to disband your mercenaries because they cost a lot of money for hiring them, and not disband your own troops as you think you got this war won now and just need to siege some stuff and you don't need mercenaries anymore. Something like that. It's just an easy button. Anyway, this means embark, so we go onto the ships. The ships have a load capacity usually, I think, of 100 per ship. So these got 18,000 and we've got 14,000 men, so we can easily go on board. And I'll show you guys how to go to war. Right now we're in the Strait of Dover. We can actually see quite a bit of England. We see that actually no one is in Middlesex, which is the capital. So we could actually disembark into Middlesex and start sieging it down. I believe that actually the supply is 19,000. This is important because if the supply is lower than the amount of men you put on it, it means that they get attrition, which basically means that you get actually people are just dying from being there. Your men are dying from being in this position because there's not enough supply. Basically, I think it's basically a mechanic that says that because you can't get enough food and supplies to your troops, they are just dying from hunger and stuff. He wants to make me his marshal. That's fine, I don't care. So we are currently sieging, and here you can see a few numbers. The attackers are 14,000, and apparently France just went to war. And the defenders are 1,000. That means that we've got more attackers than defenders, and you need to have more attackers than defenders to be able to siege down a county, to be able to assault a holding, which makes the siege go faster, a lot faster. You need to have, I think, at least 10 times as many, maybe 20, I forget the number, but let's show you how it works. So right now you see this bar going down. That means that when it's to 0, you've got the holding. But we can click this and that makes it go a lot faster. You can see it go down, but you can also see the number of attackers going down. So we're basically, men are dying as they try to jump over the wall. Now we can also see a new shield over here that says vassal levies raised too long. That means that some of our vassals, we went to war and we took some of these vassals with us and their troops, and they're basically starting to dislike us because we are using their troops. And yeah, it costs well, it costs us money, but basically their troops are dying and they just don't want that. So the longer your war lasts, the more trouble you'll have after the war because everyone dislikes you. So you want to end wars quickly, at least when you have the vassals raised. Sometimes a war is so easy that you don't need your vassals, or your vassals are just not significant to your own strength. So so then you don't raise them and they don't get angry, which is nice. Right now we're sieging, and apparently we can't see any troops of the enemy. We can see right now that the siege is going down normally. Now actually he was asking about our king was asking about educating one of our sons, and let's have a look at education. We can see over here that this is our son, and his current guardian is Pharamond de Mayenne. And basically what happens is whoever is the guardian gets a number of events where he can basically decide what happens to the child. So he might get a event that asks him that makes him notice that that Robert is rather lazy, and then it says like, well, you can be either you can let it happen because, you know, lazy is a good thing apparently, or you try to whip it out, or you try and pray that he loses this trait, or you can try and convince him that he should be diligent instead, which is actually the opposite of this one. It's a, rather than a sin, it's a virtue, and it gives you all kinds of bonuses. And it's always a % chance, so even if you choose the optimal option, or at least the one you think is optimal, it might still be that he becomes slothful, or even something worse in some cases. And basically this guardian is making all these choices and making him whatever he becomes. And that only goes for these round ones normally. This one is actually something he probably got at birth or somewhere along the line. He apparently it became apparent that he has a lisp, and that also has some negative effects, but it's not something you can do a lot about. So if we look at this ward, basically what will happen is he has a number of these traits, and I think that he is more inclined to try and make your ward the same, especially if he likes you. Else he might, if he dislikes you, he might actually give you the worst traits he can. In some cases, he because he has some sins himself, he's more inclined to give you those sins. I think it feels like that way anyway. And at the end, when he becomes 16, he will actually get something that is derived of this education trait, which is the square one, or maybe cubic one, I guess. And right now he's Midas touched. I believe that normally he either becomes Midas touch as well, or one level lower. You can see there's like 4 stars or whatever it is on the icon, and that means that he's the top kind you can get, the Midas touched. But so you can get either the 4-star one or the 3-star one, probably when he becomes of age, which is again at age 16. So the which education trait he gets is only decided when he becomes 16, and is then decided by which guardian he has. That means that you can actually have him have a different guardian up until he almost becomes 16. So something that is wise to do with your heir is to educate him yourself for most of his young life, and then when he almost reaches 16, you reconsider and seek a guardian which has a education trait which you like. That way you can choose your own traits so that he becomes the best character you can possibly get. You might also want to do this with some other children, so they actually become weaker or more inclined to become loyal, so that they don't go for don't try to get your throne or your son's throne when he gets it after your death. So there will be less infighting, which is always bad for your country. So that's something you want to do. Just make sure that your children are educated well. Right now I don't think this one is educated well at all, but again, we didn't have a lot of control over it. We started in November, I believe. It's now December. This guy is 12, and he has been at least with this guy for, I guess, 6 years, and he didn't give him a lot of good traits. Or maybe he would just very unlucky. So this guy, basically what this means is that you will get, you have a good chance of getting the Kingdom of England, which gives you a nice big realm. Maybe you can do very well, keep hold of your country, and then your son becomes of age, or you die and your son becomes the king, and he is just a lot less at everything, so he just isn't doing very well, and then everyone revolts because they don't like him, and you suddenly have a lot of infighting, which is basically the worst. At the same time, we are currently doing this war. Something else I wanted to talk about is I forget actually. I was going to talk about something, but I forgot. Anyway, so yeah, when you got the country of England, you probably want to expand into Scotland and stuff. The problem is that you also have some land in France, which is again a strong country as well. Although actually he doesn't have that many men, but he's also a child, so people might not like him very much. So there's a good chance that he is trying to fight you to gain the country of the duchy of Normandy back, or at least parts of it. So yeah, it will be a big fight afterwards, and you try to have your country together. Oh, I just remembered what I actually was going to talk about. After you either inherit or gain control over a country, you you get a short reign penalty from your vassals. And let's see if this one has one. No, here's a long reign bonus. So basically, when you just inherit a country, especially, you will have some trouble with your vassals, basically just because you just inherited the throne and you haven't proven yourself yet. And basically, over time, this short reign penalty goes down and eventually changes into a long reign bonus. So the longer you are reigning, the better it is, and that is actually something we talked about with the laws. If you go to ultimogenitor, you will have some issues at the start because you're just a baby and you have a short reign penalty, so you don't have a lot of traits because childs don't have them. For instance, if we look at this daughter, she's only 2 and she has only 1 point in stewardship. So basically, when you have ultimogenitor, your youngest son inherits in this case because it's agnatic cognatic, and he will have bad traits or won't have his abilities up high enough yet, so people will hate him, especially in combination with the short reign bonus. But in the long run, you'll have a good long reign bonus if you manage to hold on, and then it's easier to keep your country together and focus on expanding your country. You only will have the issues about inheritance a lot less because you start with a young character usually, and he lives on to become hopefully very old, and only then you will have the same issues again. Especially if you keep remarrying women who are of fertile age. I believe the cutoff is at 40 or 45. After that age, they won't get children anymore. But if she, for instance, dies before we do, we can get a new wife, and then that one would have children again because she is fertile, because she's younger, and then you might have even younger children for your ultimogenitor. Again, it is a little bit harsh though on the inheritance. So your inheritances are further apart, but they are a little bit rougher. With primogenitor, it's less the case. But everyone, basically in both cases, anyone who doesn't get any land, because you give all the land to one guy, they all will hate it and still get claims on it, because every child gets a claim. So yeah, that means that they are likely to try and go to war for the title. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. I think that I basically spoke about everything I wanted to speak about right now in the tutorial, so probably next week we'll have something different. I'm not entirely sure about it yet. It might be Elder Scrolls Online actually, or just another playthrough of Crusader Kings, maybe 2 episodes of the War of the Vikings. We'll see. And whenever I feel like something I missed or something I want to explain, I might make another tutorial. So for now, probably this is the last one. And so yeah, I hope to see you guys next time in another video from another series, probably. And I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like the video actually in YouTube, and subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you guys next time. Cheerio.